Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks, where we meet with the top thought leaders and strategists in emerging technologies, digital assets, a regulatory landscape, and capital markets. I'm your host, Jill Malandrino, and joining us this afternoon, we have William Castro Alves, partner and chief strategist at Avenue, as well as Brian Schaeffer, president of Velocity Clearing. We're here to discuss retail trading and the widening of the middle class in Brazil. It is great to have the both of you with us. Welcome to Trade Talks. And Brian, it's interesting how the retail trading environment and how the middle class is evolving within the Brazilian market. Give us some additional information, what they're focused on and such.
Sure, absolutely, Jill. And that's a really great observation. And I think something that's really we're witnessing in real time, which is a massive paradigm shift. And not just in Brazil, but in many emerging countries where we're seeing a massive proliferation or expansion, if you will, of the middle class, high net worth individuals, and family offices. And so when we think about this, and even I think it was JP Morgan that recently stated they've seen retail flows up more than 50% in just the last 2 years alone, and over $12 trillion of flows in new assets into ETFs in just August. So if we consider all of this, what does that really mean for market participants? It means that you need to find a really reliable partner with execution, clearing, and custody under one roof who can deliver very solid post-trade reports and, of course, scalable and robust technology. And when you think about that and how that's been evidenced by really large institutions such as Itaú, who's made a recent investment, and obviously we know Itaú is one of the largest multinational banks in the world, and their recent investment in Avenue really is an endorsement of all of these facts. And if you take into consideration what's happening in Asia, Velocity Clearing has just received a large investment from Hanwha Life, who is one of the largest insurers in the world and one of the largest conglomerates in South Korea. Why? Because they're all seeing this same exact trend and need to capitalize on it. So it's a very exciting and important time.
Yeah. And well, let's talk about how Brazilian investors are responding to trends in the global wealth transfer and what the new generation of investor looks like in Brazil. How have they emerged from the pandemic, let's say?
Yeah, thanks, Jill. And really well pointed by Brian. We have been seeing and living here in Miami, we see Colombians, Venezuelans, Argentinians, they all moving abroad. That's the trend, and it came, and it's not going to change. I think we just is going to enhance and become bigger and bigger. For the Brazilian side, Brazilian investors are more and more increasingly aware of the importance of global diversification. Avenue story shows that. We launched the company in 2019. And since then, we had 800,000 clients. Sounds crazy to me, but yeah, like in 5 years, we reached this level, $10 billion in AUSC. So a lot of Brazilian clients, a lot of Brazilians interested on investing. Of course, the pandemic and also the generational shift has been enhanced. It has been like speeding this process. And just to put it in perspective, in December of 2022, international allocation was only by 0.8% of Brazilian assets. By 2024, these rose to 2.5. It's a good increase, but it just shows how much it still has space to grow, still have a long way to go. And this new generation of investors that emerged, especially after the pandemic, we are talking about investors that are in their mid-30s, mid-50s. They are users of the internet, they are global citizens, they are open-minded with different alternatives of investment. So they are more willing to, which seems like taking a risk, which in fact is not, because they are living an emerging economy, which is a risk economy, and coming from that to here to US. So it's not like taking more risk, it's actually reducing the risk coming here, but they are more willing to do this. And this is all possible also because we focus in a good customer experience oriented platform that keeping the high standards of security levels necessary in the industry. And I think this trend is just like going to increase in the next few years.
Yeah. And Brian, that's something we're seeing in the US, and I would argue global investors in general, is this demand for exposure to alternative investments and not just the home market.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And again, as we're watching Brazil kind of evolve from an informal to more formal economy, that's something obviously the United States has gone through a long time ago. And so folks are looking for more structured products with lower costs and investments like ETFs. And that's why the statistic of 12 billion in inflows again, shows you exactly what's really happening in terms of the trend. But UCITS is another very popular investment vehicle for folks in Latin America who want to invest in ETFs and things of the such. without the tax ramifications of ETFs. But again, yeah, that's clearly the trend.
So that's interesting. So they're getting their exposure through packaged products
That's exactly
versus
right.
individual.
Lower fees, they're a lot more transparent and something for them to understand. And of course, as these ETFs continue to expand, you can expose yourself to fixed income, to commodities, to equities, global alternatives. I mean, they have an ETF for everything, as we know. So that's one of the many routes they can take. What we've also seen from the high net worth individuals and family offices, a very strong appetite for late stage private opportunities. When you think about SpaceX and OpenAI, Anduril, and there's the names go on, because there's also been this interesting phenomenon in the U.S. of companies staying private a lot longer until to much higher valuations. And that also is bringing to bear a lot of opportunities for those market participants.
Yeah. Well, what about the macroeconomic volatility we've been experiencing, or just some of the uncertainty? It doesn't seem as if it's deterred the emerging class of Brazilian investors.
Yeah, as I said, I think it's just like it speed up the process. Like when you see like the mass sometimes that you experience in your own country, and you see the devaluation in the currency, you're just thinking yourself like, how can I protect this without being exposed to all the risks that my parents they have been, or my entire family has been? So the answer is going abroad. And which is really good, because also when you're thinking about protection, you think about long term, you think more about like a structural investment and not just trading. So, and this is related to what Brian was saying about like UCITS or ETFs or some type of products that they are kind of a package, but they also offer to investors the possibility of being more structural allocated in their capital. It's just not like a trading in one stock specifically. They are more secure, that they are in a tax efficient vehicle, and they also have diversification in all-in-one product. So and then Avenue being pioneered in international access, trying to offer also education is really important, because of course once you leave your country you don't know much about how the system and how the investments work abroad. So it's really important part, especially when they talk about retail clients, individuals. They want to know, they need to learn about. So yeah, and the macro environment also helped them to teach how important it is to have your capital abroad, because all the time there's volatility. Then you can show, listen, if you had a part of your invest abroad, you wouldn't experience that much volatility in your portfolio.
Yeah. And Brian, that goes back to your point before about having the right technology partners, because this is what has allowed the retail investor to have access to education, to different types of products right at their fingertips, right? Compared to what it might have been even just 10, 15 years ago. So the technology plays a key part in this.
Yeah, spot on, Jill. And that's something that we, spend a lot of time focusing on, because without that really kind of robust piece of technology that helps you not only access equities or investments in general globally, there's a real gap to fill for those who are using antiquated technologies, or those who have to sort of who have to diversify their third parties, because a lot of folks don't have clearing, custody, and execution all under one roof. And I think that's becoming more and more important in order to streamline the process and take advantage of these efficiencies.
All right. Appreciate both of your insights. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.
Thank you.